This week, we're talking all about Aberon. Myself and James get overexcited and just jump on every single tangent to try and tell you what we think of this fun setting. We won't cover it all, but hopefully we'll give you some tips and tricks on using it as a setting and in your own ongoing campaigns. Welcome to We Speak Common. Hello and welcome to another episode of the D&D podcast for everyone, because here we speak common. It is, of course, the D&D show brought to you in partnership with the wonderful fellows over at the Dice Dungeon. They supply you and me and everyone I know with amazing metal and resin dice that you can use in your D&D and other tabletop RPG games. If you want to go grab some nice shiny or slightly less shiny because they made a plastic dice, then go over to their website or follow the link in the description below of this episode and use the code We Speak Common on checkout for 10% off. It's also brought to you in partnership with Describe, spelled D-S-C-R-Y-B. Describe is a wonderful subscription service that gives you beautifully written and crafted box text that you can use in your home games. Just like the box text you'd find in an adventure, but perfect for your own homebrew world. They currently have over 1,500 scenes available. A lot of them are free for you to go and browse right now, and then a load of extras are added on with a subscription. So visit Describe, that's dscryb.com. Use the coupon code COMMON at checkout to get 10% off every single month that you pay your subscription, and support the show every month too. Of course, as ever, I will shamelessly try to sell those products to my guest at some point during this episode. I do just want to give a quick shout out to the wonderful people who support this show directly through Patreon. They get lovely little extra goodies each month, and they get to join myself and a bunch of people from my table in a Discord server where we are constantly chatting about D&D and many other things like Critical Role and different rules and tabletop games and all sort of D&D adjacent stuff. It's a lot of fun, and if you want to get involved, of course, as ever, there's a link in the description below. Today, I am joined by my friend and yours, James. Hello, buddy.
Hello, mate.
You have not been on for a little hot second. It's been a month or so since we spoke on the podcast?
Yeah, I think it's been about a month when we did the recap of Waterdeep.
My God, what a mammoth episode that was as well. I went back and looked and didn't realise how long it was.
Yeah, I think we were surprised when we finished recording that one how long we were sat there for.
God, it didn't feel like it either, because it was a lot of fun. But I promise not to keep you for that long this week. I'll do my best. How has that month treated you? Have you been okay?
Yeah, it's been fun, you know. Stuck working from home, all that sort of stuff, but plenty of D&D to fill the gaps.
Yeah, exactly. I think the only thing that is pulling me through life at the moment is D&D, and the computer that I use to run our games has started to decide it hates life now, and it started to stress me out because I'm like, what am I going to do if I don't have my D&D fix every week?
We'll just have to go mobile. We'll have to do terrible sound quality, Ben.
Oh God, I can't do that to you guys. I'm too invested in my setup. It just wouldn't. It would pain me more than it would pain you, I think. Okay, well, I have called you, my friend, because I want to talk about a subject that's been requested quite a bit, actually, in the Discord server for We Speak Common. And there's actually a series of these that I want to do on Legends and Lore, on different settings. But I know that you, not only are the reason I own this book, but also own this book. So today we're going to talk about Aberon. And I'm going to double check the spine of the book to make sure I actually said that right, because I always say it wrong.
I've always said it's Aberon, rising from the last war.
Yeah, see, I'm wrong. I always say... No, Aberon is right. I used to say Erebon.
That's the one.
Yeah, which is not right. It's not right at all. So today we're going to talk all about Aberon. It's going to be not Erebon, Aberon. Kind of like a 101 to the setting, because I have never run a game in Aberon before, and in learning about it, I've decided I definitely want to.
It's definitely one of the coolest settings I've read.
It really is, but this is the thing. I have so many games going on, James. I don't have enough time to run yet another one in a whole new campaign setting. So I think today the plan is to not only talk about the incredibly cool lore of this setting and inform people that don't know or just don't have time to read the book, have it on the bookshelf and just haven't got to it yet, and then talk about how you could run a game in it, but also what parts of it you could use in the game you are currently already running. Because that's going to be, for me personally, I think that would be the most beneficial thing. Is like, okay, how can I take this really cool setting and use it right now without starting a whole new game, as well as how do I run a whole new game in it?
Yeah, I think we've definitely done that a bit already in a couple of our games.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. So I've been doing a little bit of research, and I know you've been reading Rising from the Last War. So I guess the first thing to say is that we will be talking mostly about what is in Eberron Rising from the Last War, which is the 5th edition book. Now, obviously, there is Eberron source books for definitely for 4th edition. I'm not sure if it's 3.5, but it's definitely in 4th edition. Lots of source books there, and some of that lore is different. It changes. And I also found out, and this is something, I don't know if you know this, James, so do tell me, but the creator of the setting of Eberron is a guy, hang on, let's see if I can remember his name.
I think it begins with a K, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does begin with a K. Oh, come on, I literally looked at it this morning. What is his name? Someone's shouting at the Keith Baker. Someone's shouting at their podcast platform of choice. Like, it's Keith Baker. So Keith Baker created Aberon, and he and Wizards of the Coast eventually went their own separate ways. But he does still do a lot of work for them through the DM's Guild, and he has a very different canon, spelled with a K, to what Wizards of the Coast have for the setting. So you may have seen, because this confused me before I got into it, there was a book that came out, a PDF book that was about Eberron that came out before Rising from the Last War. Then Rising from the Last War came out, and then Keith put out through DM's Guild, and you can buy it as a physical book, a book called Exploring Eberron, which is kind of, it builds on a lot of the lore that's in Rising from the Last War, but also war, that's confusing, but also adds his stuff too.
There is an extra supplement as well on D&D Beyond as well, I think, called Wayfinder's Guide to Aberon.
Yeah, so that's what came out before Rising from the Last War.
Ah, right, okay.
That was like the precursor for 5th edition. Then this book came out, and then Keith released Exploring Eberron. And I will say, I have only skimmed Exploring Eberron, just because of the time that I decided we were going to do this episode and then how much time I had to read. And it's really good, and there's a lot of great stuff in there. So if you are planning on doing a Eberron campaign, I'm going to do that so many times.
Hordes of the internet are coming for you.
They're going to kill me. If I go missing, you know why. Keith's come to get me himself. It's worth reading because there's a lot of good stuff in there, and it's basically a lore book more than anything else, and it's just got some real good stuff in there, and I think it actually has a couple of artificer subclasses in it too, so definitely worth picking up. Okay, that aside, and that kind of really poorly explained, James, let's talk about Eberron.
Yeah, I mean, let's start in my favourite place, dragons, as usual.
Yes.
The world is literally, from what I've read, is literally a dragon. Which is nuts.
So nuts. I love this. So, let's start at the beginning, the very beginning of Eberron, which is its creation myth. Now, it's kind of, I've read this a couple of times that it's either a myth and believed, or it actually happened, and I think that's kind of up to you. But yeah, Eberron is the planet, much like in the Forgotten Realms, Toril is the planet. Toril, however you say it. And it is a dragon named Eberron, funnily enough. Yeah. So in the beginning, there were 3 dragons known as the Progenitor Dragons. I believe that's how you say it.
I think that's the one, yeah.
So there was Aberon. I'm trying to find the names because I can't say them without reading them because they're that difficult in my.
I think one's like is it Sybaris?
Yeah.
That's, I think.
Listen to us now, both frantically flicking our pages because we weren't this prepared. we were semi-prepared, but not completely.
Anyway, while you look, it's the time-old story anyway of good dragon versus bad dragon, and then dragon in the middle, just a bit sick of everyone else.
Yeah, so it's Sybaris, I think is how you say it, Aberon, who are both female dragons, and then Kyber, who is a male dragon.
That's the one.
And I really need to put a light on in this room. I've just realised how poor my eyesight is. Eberron was kind of going about her day, and Sybaris and Kyber got into a fight. Now, they'd already decided to create the planes of existence, as you do, just on a random Monday. You're like, hey, should we just make some planes of existence? So they did that, and then their final work was the material plane, where all ideas would become manifest, a realm that could know everything: war, peace, life, death, order, chaos, everything. Kyber wanted ultimate dominion over the material plane, and so got into a fight with Sybaris, who, didn't agree with his plans. And in that fight, Kyber killed / destroyed, ripped apart Sybaris. Aberon, Christ me, I'm going to get it wrong so many times. I don't know where I get Erebon from. I don't know what that is. Aberon, she got in the way, got into the fight with Kyber, and kind of formed a gap between Kyber and Sybaris and defeated him.
Yeah. So from what I gathered, you've got Sybaris essentially spawns all the fiends and all the horrible, nasty things.
Kyber.
Or have I got that the wrong way around?
Yeah, wrong way around.
All right. Kyber spawns all the nasty things, and whereas the other one essentially ends up spawning things like Celestials, which, from what I gathered, are the only two types of creatures in Aberon that follow the same sort of alignment we all understand and know.
Yeah, effectively, yeah, because everything is different. We should have said at the beginning, everything is different here, but everything has its place, which is what's fun. Everything in D&D has a place in Aberon, but it's all slightly changed. So Sybaris becomes the sky, effectively, if you're imagining it as three planes. Not planes of existence, but like up, down, and middle. And she is actually represented by a ring of... I call them meteorites that ring the planet. I don't know if they are. I don't know if that's the technical scientific term.
I think that this might be a misunderstanding, but I think they're called dragon shards.
Yes, I believe that is right.
Because there's like two kinds of those, and some fall from the sky, which I assume are those which the dragon makes up.
Mm-hmm. And Kyber became the Underdark and the caves and the systems underneath the world, inside it, and Aberon became Aberon, the middle, the actual planet, the surface that you and I would walk on and live on. So basically, Aberon becomes a living prison for Kyber, which is just really cool. Sybaris becomes a ring of golden dragon shards wrapped around the planet, said to be the source of magic. And it's that creation myth that sets Aberon, oh my god, apart from anything else. Like I've not heard a creation myth like that before, and I think it's really interesting, and it sets dragons up to be this very important species in the setting, and they are, and we'll get into those later.
Yeah.
So you've got the planet, its ring of dragon shards, and its Underdark, and then you've got these 12 other planes of existence, and they are represented by 12 moons that float around and exist in, Aberon space.
Yeah, something quite interesting I came across as well is I believe at one point there was a 13th, not to do with the dragons at all.
Yes, there was. Now, this is an interesting one as well, because in 4th edition, Wizards of the Coast bought what effectively was the 9 Hells to Aberon, and like Asmodeus became a being in the Aberon universe, like he is in the Faerunian universe, but that is not a thing in 5th edition, as far as I am aware, unless that's something I've missed.
I was speaking of the realm of madness. With the I believe that it's pronounced the Dulcir. I think they're still sort of around, but essentially they pop in, like, from what I read, seemingly out of nowhere, and start doing all sorts of crazy, like, biological experimentation. And in Aberon lore, they are the people who made Illithids.
Well, shit me, I'd somehow missed all of that.
I think that might have been in some of the Googling and the YouTube videos I've watched.
Oh, sweet, okay. This is the thing when you try and do setting guides. There's so much lore over the last 47 plus years of D&D. But yeah, this is the thing. There are all of these, and you'll see the example as we go through. There are all these races that you know that have a different, might be creation, but it might just be a different place in Eberron than they do in anywhere else. So I hadn't read anything about the Illithids in Eberron yet. So what do you know about this new?
That's literally as much as I know, because I was like, I didn't want to go too far out there. I figured we'd best stick to to what we do know.
Is it kind of like when you're reading through the D&D wiki and then you read some random fact about, like, you see a highlighted thing for Crystal Sphere and suddenly you're in Spelljammer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically that's what happened.
Because I do know as well.
I stopped.
Yeah, it's probably for the best. I do know as well that there was another realm, which is where the Kalistar, who are a race in Aberon, get their origin, and it's the realm of dreams, which is a whole other thing that I was like, this is too much for me right now. I'm going to start with the basics.
Yeah.
So basically, the long and short of it is there's 13 realms, and there probably were others. But all you need to know is that there are 13 planes of existence that exist in this cosmological wheel that is the planial cosmology of Eberron. If I say that one more time, you have permission to punch me the next time you see me.
Okay, I'll remember that.
Good, cool. But this is where I want to put a side note. I feel like my notes are so scrambled in my head that this is such a chaotic list, and I apologise. We'll get it in order. But Eberron, because it has its own plane cosmology, it doesn't fit into Spelljammer, which is really interesting.
That wasn't what I read. Was the reason for that is because the ring formed by, I'm probably going to get the wrong one again, Sybaris, is essentially impenetrable to all outer forces on purpose to stop other gods from interfering.
So that is a what's the word? Like a plot reason. That's that's kind of the in-world reason. But no, actually within the mechanics of Spelljammer, that being that every single plane exists in the same material plane and can be travelled to via spelljamming vessels. We'll do Spelljammer another day, don't worry, I'm itching for it. They will share the same planes of existence. So you can be on Toril and plane shift to Mount Celestia, or you can be on Greyhawk and plane shift to Mount Celestia. They're the same place. Because Eberron has its own planes, and it doesn't have, it probably has a version of Mount Celestia, but it's a different plane. It doesn't line up. So therefore, if you wanted to insert an Erebon Crystal Sphere inside your Spelljammer campaign, you'd have to work out a way to explain those differences. There are ways to do it.
I did see an interesting one where someone was saying that they'd have it so that the ring was starting to decay. Because if you were running a campaign there and that was a plot thing, that could make it quite interesting with what sort of beings are now trying to get involved.
So the way I would do it, and I'm going to do it when I finally run my Spelljammer campaign, is that on my personal map of the spheres that I have mapped out, Shard Space, which is what I call it, and I think if you Google Shard Space, it's like one of the given names for it in the Spelljamming community, is much like Lost Space, where it's not connected by any main or regular flow of phlogiston. Not to get too Spelljammery in this episode about Aberon.
Always comes back to it then. Always. It
is the cornerstone of D&D for me. But because it's disconnected, many people can't get there. And if they do get there, once they get inside the crystal sphere, obviously there's 14 planets, including Aberon. Each planet is named after one of the planes of existence. So my sort of own personal headcanon to make it fit is that when you are plane shifting in Aberon, you're actually shifting to a different planet. And so you are always shifting to these different realms that are contained within these different planetoids in the solar system. Yeah. And then the ring of dragon shards I would just use as that one, having it decaying is a really fun idea, but I would have it as there are gaps and it's very difficult to get to the planet surface and away from the planet surface to make it a fun little extra encounter / challenge, but also have it so that it kind of makes sense why beings from Aberon don't appear much anywhere else.
Yeah.
But there you go. There's your Spelljammer Divergent for this episode. There'll probably be another one in the next one too.
At least another 3, I reckon. Before we finish this episode, at least 3 more Spelljammers.
Yeah, but there is also a very fun diagram in Rising from the Last War of the planes and how they rotate around the planet like different planets, and it's just that art is so interesting to me that if I was going to use that planial cosmology and put it in Spelljammer, I'd have to like have the planets be the planes, which also answers that question, like, can you just like spell jam to one plane to another, which is like it opens up these fun different things that will be different from anyone else's games. But anyway, I digress. So you've got this place, this planet with this creation myth of these dragons, and that sets up dragons to be a very important creature within Aberon. Now, you are my go-to man for dragons because you bloody love the creatures.
I do. My favourite.
And dragons mean a lot to Aberon, so do you wanna just paint the brush for me?
Oh, well, basically, just everything you know about dragon alignments, you just throw them out the window.
Yep.
With most other creatures in this, actually, there is essentially creatures with their own aims and goals now, and I believe the way they're not too involved in the world from what I've looked at. I might be completely wrong, but we
don't fact check on this episode. We just talk about what
the way they are most important. It seems to me to be through those dragon marks. And I kept coming across some kind of Draconic Prophecy or something.
Yes. So the Draconic Prophecy is a prophecy of all of Aberon. It's a long list of different things that could or may come true, but to be able to understand it and to sort of foretell it and understand the different routes that it could take, you have to spend years and years of studying things. And the idea is that the only creatures with the actual time to be able to do that are the dragons. And so they study this Draconic Prophecy that kind of dictates where the world will go.
Yeah, there was one interesting little story I read about the dragons in my research, and that was at some point they were warring with a faction of elves. And a group of these elves decided, no, that's it. Right, we're going to make friends with these dragons. And they essentially spawned a new race that was half elf, half dragon.
Yes. Yes, I read on this today.
But that just ended up in the elves and the dragons going, yep, we're going to stop fighting now, just so we can kill all of these new people.
So there was... I mean, again, there's a whole setting here, so there's so many tangents. But yeah, so there was an elf woman and I believe he was a green dragon. His name escapes me. Dragon names are hard to pronounce anyway. And they were trying to bring the two races together, and they had a half-dragon daughter. She is not like a dragonborn. It's completely different. Dragonborn have their place in Aberon, but it is a completely different, effectively, subrace. And she is the only one. The dragons and the elves, when they found out, hated it, and so they teamed up to destroy her. And along the line, she had a dragon mark, and she's the only one with that dragon mark.
Yeah.
The dragon either died or went into hiding somewhere. We're not quite sure. I'm pretty sure the elf died, and the daughter was turned into a lich by her mother, and her phylactery was hidden. And so this daughter, this half-dragon, half-elf, doesn't actually know where their phylactery is. She does appear in Rising from the Last War under a different name. And so there is a whole campaign hook there, basically. But that's one that's deep in the lore. Like, if you wanted to run, and we'll get into this later, if you wanted to run a campaign, I wouldn't use that hook straight away, because it's one that's built into the Seekers, the what are they called? The Vo, who are kind of like a religion that aren't a religion, that believe that they believe in their inner selves. Power comes from yourself, from your blood. So it's linked to that, and it's linked to like how they're viewed in the world, and what she's trying to do, and there's loads of stuff. But yes, that did happen. So the dragons kind of had their age. There's many different ages in Aberon. The dragons had an age, the giants had an age.
Yeah.
Then sort of your normal, I say normal, the standard races that you see sort of came about, and they had their age. But yeah, the dragons and the Draconic Prophecy is something that kind of oversees the whole world, and the idea is that the dragons study it and they see it in the conjunction of the planets and in runes that appear in lava, and only the dragons have the time and the knowledge to read it and understand it and talk about it and spread it. It's deep.
Yeah, and generally speaking, the people of Aberon are a bit more preoccupied with other problems than to deal with a Draconic Prophecy.
And boy, did they have problems, James.
Yes. Oh.
So, as you might guess, there was a war. The last war. It's not the last war. It won't be the last war.
Yeah, let's be honest here. As a history person, I'm basically looking at this and going, this absolutely reeks of mid-war Europe, basically. The Treaty of Thronehold is basically the Treaty of Versailles. Nobody likes it. And it's just going to all erupt in war again.
So we should note then that and this is one of the things that draws me to Aberon. If you look at the map, there's loads of different continents. It's not just one big continent like Faerun. And there are lots of different areas and lots of different places of power and different seats of power. They all erupted into a war. And that's very much simplifying how it led to that point.
Well,
but go on.
It's from what I can gather, it's not across a different continent. It's just on the continent of Corvair,
which is the main one, the biggest one.
Yeah, basically, if anything happens in Aberon, it happens on Corvair, from what I've gathered.
Yeah, that's the
place
where
to
the
be.
Protagonists hang out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they all got into a big conflict. They had a big fight, and it lasted for a very, very long time.
102 years.
Yep. And it was destructive and deadly. And it was kind of a moment of change for the world of Aberon, because you went from your very typical kind of ruling houses and families to the people being in charge were those who had dragon marks and the different houses.
I see it a bit differently than that.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, because it wasn't quite as typical beforehand. Because the king sort of that originally unified the entire continent did it through diplomacy and negotiation rather than war. Admittedly, backed by a big scary army.
Of course.
And he actually, obviously, the people of the dragon marks are still around at this juncture, and he essentially realised they were powerful, got them on side, and put rules in place for them. Mm-hmm. And it was on his death, and them not being able to pick an heir between the 5 different countries he essentially ruled over, that caused the war, which then means that the people with the marks just sort of sit at the back and get basically profit from everybody, and then at the very end are the only ones realistically left standing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. But effectively, they were important before, and they became even more important because of the war. Because, for example, you had I forget which house it was. I think it's House Corvair. No, that's the name of the place. Where is it? House begins with a C.
Canif, that made the Warforged.
Thank you. That's the one. Yeah, they make the Warforged, who we'll get into a little bit later. But they were like weapons during the last war, so they really profited off of the fact that everyone was fighting, and through that profit, they grew and became much bigger. But I guess we should sum up dragon marks. So you're born with a dragon mark usually because you exist to a house already.
Yeah, they're essentially bloodlines.
Yeah,
and I believe essentially certain dragon marks are bound to certain races as well, so it can't seem to cross sort of character races, but is very much kept in that bloodline.
And they're a fun way to really tie your character into the kind of the lore and the politics and what's going on in Aberon, because you're suddenly connected to this effectively massive organisation or well-known It's a brand. It's like you're walking around saying I am Nike. You know.
I mean, it does essentially decide what your job is as well.
Yeah, and not everyone has one, of course, and they are relatively rare. And what's even rarer is that some people put a lot of time following their, I suppose, predetermined prophecy or whatever their dragon mark kind of leads to. They look into it, they power it, and it grows. So there are some characters you might find that have a dragon mark that goes all over their body.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. Like just coming across this guy who's totally tatted up with this massive mark, and it signifies this great power that he has.
Yeah, and then you get the awkward Aberrant dragon marks.
Tell us about those.
They're essentially dragon marks that randomly pop up on people. It's, from what I gathered, it's not bloodline related, but they're seen essentially as a bit of an abomination. And there was a time when the houses with the established dragon marks essentially got together and tried to just exterminate everybody with an aberrant dragon mark, which is why they're so rare now, because they've all essentially been killed.
Yeah. So, you can really tie yourself into what's going on here by having one of these things. I don't know if as a DM I'd want everybody to have a dragon mark in my party. That might be a bit like...
It wouldn't make sense either.
No, it would water it down a bit too much.
Why would all of these competing houses all of a sudden be working together in a party?
But then again, maybe that's a hook, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe it's about bringing them together. So you've got these houses that are now kind of a big force of power in Corvair and seen across and understood across the whole of the planet. And you've got this war that's going on, and it eventually comes to an end, and it comes to an end at its peak.
There's a spectacular end.
Oh, it's amazing. There's an area of the map as you look at it now called the Moonland. And the Moonland was a place, much like everywhere else, where civilization was. There were cities.
An entire nation.
Yep, cities.
Specifically that nation.
Do you remember the name of the nation?
I believe it was Seir. I'm not sure I'm saying it right.
Seir is how I say it. But yeah, so Seir is... just going about its time, being a nation during a war, finding the struggles in that. And then one day...
They were a little bit more than that, though, because they were the ones that were technically next in line for this throne. And they were the jewel of Eberron, of the whole... Sorry, not Eberron, of the whole of Corvair. They were, like, the jewel that... Like, they had the wealth, they had the power.
Yeah.
And then boom.
So they're going about their day, and suddenly... There is, I mean, I in my head it's a big explosion, but it's not. It's not a big explosion.
I don't know. From what I've seen, like descriptions where people went blind from the flash of light.
Yeah, so there's a big thing. Something happens, and this is kind of the big mystery. No one knows what happened, but basically the whole nation ceases to exist. There is just a big area that is now known as the Moonland, and it's the day that this happened is called the Day of Mourning. And it's kind of left up to the DM to work out, like, is this something that you want to explore in your campaign? Is your campaign about working out what happened in the Moonland, and will it happen again? And the fact that this unknown event just erupted out of nowhere, destroyed a nation, took out thousands of people in the blink of an eye.
Millions.
The war kind of... Oh, yeah, millions. Yeah, I mean, I'm underplaying it. The war comes to a stop because everyone's worried that it's just going to happen again. No one knows what it was.
Nobody actually wins.
No, not at all. It just kind of ends. And it leaves the nation the whole nation in a very strange place.
The eeriest thing about the whole thing is that it's essentially like an encroaching mist. So like the people on the very edges of Seir were able to find out it was coming and escape.
Yeah, but those in the centre were doomed.
Wiped, but the mist stopped exactly on the borders.
Yeah, which is like why?
Which is so creepy.
It's like in a very simplistic term, it's like a fantasy nuke.
Yeah.
Like if you're close enough to see the flash, you're probably doomed, and if you're far enough to see the cloud, you might be able to get away.
Oh, it's mad.
Yeah, really mad. So there's now this whole section of this continent, and it's huge, that is just this area of white. And what is this? What's in there? What happened? Who knows? Was it an experiment that went wrong? Was it an attack from another warring nation? Nobody knows, and nobody's really claimed. As far as I know, nobody's claimed responsibility for it either. So
that's why the war stops, because everybody's like, "Was that you?" And the others like, "No," and they're all like, "All right then. I think maybe we should stop until we figure out what just happened."
But as with anything, everyone is kind of on each other's toes. There's that feeling that war could break out again at any moment, because there was no conflict resolution. The fighting didn't stop because someone won and a decision was made. The fighting stopped because everyone was scared that they were all just going to get wiped out by something. So there's this tension that floats around, and it's kind of the way I imagine it. It's kind of like Cold War era tension.
It's definitely like really Cold War or between the World Wars sort of tension, where everybody knows it's going to happen. It's just a matter of how it's going to start and when,
and where and when. Yeah. So you're suddenly in this setting that's got this rich history, this rich fantasy myth, but has this kind of industrial era plot line going through it, because it resonates with me with World War 1 and 2 and that kind of era. And what's nice to go along with that is that the setting itself and the way magic is used kind of fits that industrial revolution theme, because you've got magic being used in a way that we don't see a lot anywhere else. You've got the lightning rail, which is a magically powered train that travels at high speeds throughout the continent. You've got flying airships, and effectively magic being used as electricity. And it's kind of that thing where I know that if I flick my light switch, my lights are going to come on and electricity powers that, but I don't know how electricity works, not really.
Yeah.
But mages, they understand all of that. They're like the electricians of Aberon.
You say that. The weird thing about Eberron is that your common level magic, things like prestidigitation and your basic spells, are insanely common. I think they're called, and they're easy for people to pick up. So you get people called mage rights. They're not wizards or warlocks. They're just able to study it, and quite often say they're a locksmith. They'll learn the arcane lock and the knock spell. Well, that's it. But your higher level magics, things like raise dead and stuff like that, are incredibly rare and are almost, from what I can gather, exclusively the remit of your dragon marked houses.
Yeah, it's a really fun way to look at how a civilization would develop over time if magic was the norm. And that's always something I've tried to put in my games, like my Watchful Order or my City Guard or whatever, use things like Zones of Truth and whole person spells as part of their sort of standard array, because magic exists in this world and people know how it works, so why wouldn't they use it to make their lives easier? And it's that on steroids, and it gives this really nice industrial, tough feel. It's lovely.
Ugh.
There's obviously a bunch of character options for players. There are different races. Everyone knows about the Warforged, which are constructs with souls that were created as soldiers for the last war, but then when the war ended, they were told they could go and the construction of them stopped, but the ones that were alive and living were told they could go and just live their lives, and so they're this race trying to find their place in the world.
Well, shall we start with them? Because I feel they're worth looking into.
Yeah, go on then.
So they're essentially still seen as second-class citizens.
Yeah.
People don't like them purely because they remember the horrors of, obviously, the last war. And so you've got this interesting dichotomy. You've got Warforged that are further away from the morning, aren't aware of a particular individual known as the Lord of Blades.
Yes.
Who is probably a Warforged.
It's
not
highly
quite
implied.
confirmed.
I'm pretty sure he is.
Yeah. And he basically despises creatures of the flesh due to the mistreatment of the Warforged and forcing them to be essentially what he views as slaves. And
So there's another campaign plot hook for you there.
Literally, it could be one of the things of they don't even have to ever encounter him, but they could literally just come across somebody who follows him, be up near a factory which uses Warforged labour, and they're trying to convince them to, overthrow them because they're being mistreated.
I'm pretty sure he hides out in the Moonland as well.
Yeah. So you've got him, and then you've got the Warforged Colossi. Picture, what's the guy from Fallout 3? The big robot from Fallout. I can't remember the name. But
I don't know who you're talking about. I never played Fallout.
I'm sure people that are listening will know about the big robot guy. He was in Fallout 4 as well, I think.
Okay.
And essentially, they all died and broke the moment the day of mourning happened. But there are rumours of some operational ones still around, and part of the whole thing is people trying to find them because they are essentially just weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah, they're kind of like, I imagine them as Sentinels from X-Men. These giant, huge robots that just do what they want, basically.
Liberty Prime, that's it, Liberty Prime.
That still means nothing to me, but sure, I'm sure someone will get that.
Yeah,
reference.
they'll get it.
So yeah, you've got these really interesting constructs with souls that are kind of trying to find their place in the world, and it's a bit like akin to like an AI uprising in a way. Like, how would you feel about a non-organic life form trying to find its place in the world? That's what Warforged is.
Yeah, and they all have really adorable names as well, because their naming convention is literally they just pick words that they like.
Yeah, because they're not given names like humans and elves are. Yeah. They're beautiful, and I know that a lot of out of everything in Aberon, they're the thing that I think people always port across and use in other games because they're just so interesting.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is the book that gave us the Artificer. We won't talk too much about that today, but they have a nice close affinity with the Warforged because they're the people who can understand them the most. Then you've got the Kalistar, who are... They're like a compounded people as well. They're created from the union of humanity and renegade spirits from the plane of dreams. The spirits are called, and I never pronounce this right, Quarry. I think that's how you say it.
That's how I'd probably say it.
Yeah. So there's this interesting, like, you want to get a little bit edgy. You've got that. You've got the Changelings, which are obviously they shapeshift, and it's like, how do you... the Changelings are so cool because you can either be a Changeling who never changes and tries to find their place in the world, a Changeling who has many different places and becomes a different person with every city they enter, or you could be a Changeling who wants to show the world that they are a Changeling and they keep their true form, which is this kind of pale white-eyed being.
Which would not be advisable because people don't like Changelings.
People don't like that because inherently they don't like anything that's different. But also, you never know who you're talking to, do you?
Yeah, it's not even that. It's just this fear of, is this the person I'm talking to or is it a Changeling? And it didn't help. Like, during the last war, which only 2 years ago, they were literally used as spies and infiltrators.
I mean, obviously.
Yeah. But their creation is a bit gross. We all know what doppelgangers look like. I won't say much else.
Yeah, it's nightmare fuel that. So they're a really cool and interesting race that you can play, and there's a lot of, obviously, your standard sort of elves and dwarves and all of that fit into, but they all have different, like, whereas a gnome might be very tinkery in Forgotten Realms, they've got a different background in Aberon. So it's really worth going through and looking at them all, and really working out what kind of character you'd want to play in an Aberrant setting with that background, or whether you'd want to maybe look at something that you wouldn't normally play. Like, I quite like humans, but humans might be very different in Aberon, and if I wanted to play that feel, I might go for a different race. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's totally different setting, so like what suits you in Faerun might not suit you in Aberon.
Yeah, it opens up the opportunity to try something very different, which I like. And so it's very advisable that you read up on the histories of those races when you're making your character in an Aberon setting, I think. There's something else that's very advisable when you're creating a character in Aberon, and that is to have some really good dice to roll your stats with, James.
Always the best.
Always the best. And do you know where you get the best dice from?
Is it? I don't know. It's on the tip of my tongue, Ben.
It begins with a D.
It's something to do with dice.
Yeah, it's the Dice Dungeon. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're a wonderful place where you can buy beautiful metal dice and resin ones too now as well. And the ranges are constantly expanding. So go and have a look at their website, pick out a set that you really like, and then use the code WeSpeakCommon for 10% off on your order. And remember, it's your whole basket. So the more you spend, the more you save. The other thing as well that I found when reading through this book, I was like, this is so different from anything I've ever run before. Like if I was going to run Aberon, how would I describe everything? So describe is another tool that would really help with getting you through that prep phase. There's hundreds of scenes, thousands of scenes available for you to use in your games now or in the future when you pick up Aberon and eventually run it, because let's face it, we're all going to. It's so good. Why would you not? That are pre-written for you by fantastic writers, and I was going to say artists, and they are kind of artists because they make art with words.
Artists of the word.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful prose that I could never write, and you can just pick it up and pop it into your campaign. So let's say you wanted to describe a specific spell. You type that spell in to describe, and it's there for you to pick up and read to your players or to your DM as the spellcaster in the group. Go have a look at Describe, dscryb.com. Use the code COMMON on checkout for 10% off your subscription. Don't forget there are a bunch of free scenes for you to check out, so you don't have to have a subscription to go and start using their service. Shall we talk about, because I know that it's very brief what we've talked about on Aberon as a setting, but this book is, over 300 pages thick?
Yeah.
So it kind of has to be, and like I say, there's a whole other book by Keith Baker that has even more of this stuff in. So if anything we've said has resonated with you, go and have a read. Shall we talk about first? Let's talk about setting a campaign in Aberon, and then let's talk about the bits that we would take out and use in our campaigns now. Because I've been thinking about this quite a lot, and I think if I was going to throw you guys into a brand new Aberon campaign tomorrow, I'd want to do something. I definitely want to use the Moonland because I find that so interesting that there's this area of the map that is basically a big uncharted mystery now. And you can do that. You can do anything you want with that as a DM. You can make that something that went wrong in the Moonland. You can make it something that was from outside. I guess the easiest thing you can do, obviously, is something that talks about the tensions and the warring, that kind of campaign.
See, the way I'd like to do it, if you really want your players to get a feel for Aberon, is you'd have them start in, I think it's the city of Sean, which is like the big old city.
Yeah, like the big place, the capital.
Yeah, low levels, they're sort of working maybe for one or two of the houses, trying to gather intel or something. And then if you really wanted them to go to the Moonland, you have it where they think there might be a weapon which might tip the balance in favour of them somewhere in the Moonland. And then, now your players are high level, they've done a bit more, they can now go into this really weird, wacky place and go from there. So there's like plot potential to go anywhere.
The fun thing about this whole setting as well is that you could pretty much take any pre-written adventure and pop it. Maybe not Tomb. That would be pretty hard to fit in. But if you took, for example, Dragon Heist, you could set that in Sharn. And Sharn is such an interesting city. It's layered, so it's got tiers, and it's called the City of Towers. They're massive towers that go up to the sky. They're all built off of each other magically because it helps their construction and helps them stay stable. And it's so massive and so tall that the bottom level, the cogs, doesn't see daylight basically. Which is such a, like, if you want to run a city campaign, oh my god, Sharn is such the perfect place for it.
Well,
it's so dense.
I could just imagine there'd be so much conflict between those on the lower levels that are stuck in the dark and those higher up.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be an interesting thing to explore.
And I feel like you could do a whole campaign in Sharn. You wouldn't even have to do it in the rest of Eberron. Like, you wouldn't even have to travel much further out of Corvair. But there are a bunch of other continents is the word I'm looking for, and locations to visit too. So I would I would definitely use the Moonland. I would want to do a campaign where you start off being pretty much nobodies who get involved in over your heads, and it would be about, I'd want to do it where you have to travel a lot, so I could do, like, there are things that I'd want to do as part of the campaign. So I'd want to have some sessions where you are on the lightning rail. I'd want to do sessions in the Moonland, in Sharn. I'd want to do sessions in airships, because they're quite integral and sort of recognised as part of Aberon. All these kind of, I was going to say tropes, they're not really tropes, all of these iconic images that come to me when I think of Aberon and looking at the book that I want you to experience as players. And I'd link that all together with a story of maybe trying to work out what happened in the Moonland.
Yeah.
But when you get into it, you find out that it's not that you need to worry about. You don't need to worry about the Moonland. You need to worry about, I don't know, maybe it's the Warforged, the Lord of Blades, who you now need to worry about, or maybe it's this half elf, half dragon lich that's out there that's revealed herself to you.
Well, as long as I get to pilot a Warforged Colossi that, just come across an operational one, I'll be perfectly happy.
Yeah. I mean, you just sort of find it and you go, I'm gonna make this thing work for me now.
Well, the Lord of Blades has got one, so you have to take it off him, and that could be fun.
Spoilers, James. You could as well. Basically just recreate Shadow of the Colossus with those things.
See, I don't even know what Shadow of the Colossus is, Ben. My turn to be not know the reference.
We're 1 for 1 now. We'll leave it at that. So yeah, you could do. It's such a cop-out answer, but you could do literally anything in this setting. It would be really fun to do a whole campaign about finding the Warforged place in the world, or finding the Changelings place in the world.
I think the thing to take away is that you can set anything you could do in Faerun, you can essentially do in Eberron, but it has its own special little Eberron-y spin on it.
Which is what makes it unique, and that's what makes it so appealing to me, is that we talk about tropes a lot, and we talk about how you end up running the same stories, and there are only 31 different types of stories in the world. But because the setting is so unique in some of its lore and its creation myth, that those stories don't feel the same, even though they are.
Sometimes a good story is just a good story.
Yeah, that's just true. That's very true. How would you use Aberon now, then? Because we're both running games in the Forgotten Realms, and I'm quickly becoming jealous of people that aren't doing that. So how would you use any of the stuff in this book in your pre-running campaign?
Well, perhaps one of the favourite things I've done is them living spells.
Oh, I knew this was going to come up. Living spells are so genius. I don't know how I've never thought of this before.
Like, I think I put them in one of your Orlor games, and I had them as they're essentially just rogue bits of magic, and I had them where somebody had got them contained, albeit a couple have broken out. But they're something you can easily take from Eberron and plop anywhere, because it's just magic gone wild.
Yeah. So in the sense of Eberron, their explanation is that they are one of the anomalies. Anomalies,
Ben. Come on.
Anomalies. There we go. Thank you. Anomalies that came out from the creation of the Moonland, and they are spells that just have their own mind in a way. They just do what they want. So I think you get 3 stat blocks. Is it Burning Hands, Lightning Bolt, and Cloud Kill?
I think so.
Yeah.
I found a handy supplement on DM's Guild which gave you loads.
Yeah. I think I have that too.
Yeah, they're not difficult to make.
No, and there are some basic rules to customizing them in the back of in their section at the back of Aberon. But funnily enough, there's a couple that appear in Icewind Dale, Frime of the Ross Maiden as well. So there is a precedent for a living spell existing in different settings.
Oh, I've still not read through that, so I didn't know.
I haven't read through it. If my DM for the Play by Post campaign is listening, I promise you, Firestorm, I have not have not read it. I haven't read it. I just flicked through the stat blocks at the back, but I'm pretty sure. Hang on, I'm going to flick through the stat blocks now.
Let's be honest. A new campaign comes out, you buy it. If you're going to be playing it or not, you look at the back.
You look at the magic items, don't you?
Yeah.
You have to.
First thing you go to, without fail, the first thing I always go to, the magic items and the stat blocks.
I like that there's a stat block for a brain in a jar in this book as well, which is right up your street, James. See, you're making me question myself now. Now I have to look and check. Hang on. Talk amongst yourselves for a second. Here we go.
It's a bit awkward because I've only got you to talk to right now, Ben.
Yeah.
I've locked everybody else in my house out of the room so we could record this.
Oh, that's sweet. Here you go. Yeah, living spells. So there's a living Bigby's Hand, which is cool, and there's a living Blade of Disaster spell. I don't know how those come up in the context of Rime of the Frost Maiden, because, like I said, I haven't read it because I'm a good player.
Isn't Blade of Disaster the 9th level spell?
I don't think it's 9th, is it?
Oh, I know they brought in some new blade spell in Rime that was like a 9th level, and that sounds horrifying.
No, you're right.
If it's getting sentience.
It is a 9th level spell. Yeah, it's but this is the thing. We've gone on a tangent again. It's a spell that Joe and I talked about quite frequently when it came out because it's like a better Mordenkainen's sword, but it's not worth being a 9th level spell at the same time.
It's cool, though. It's cool.
There's a sentient one of those. Sentient 9th level spell for you in the back of Frost Maiden if you need an excuse to buy it. So there you go. So they're definitely something you can use, and they can just be like a random encounter, or they can be like they would be really fun to use those, reskin those as something like a minion that accompanies a high level mage.
Yeah,
like he has just living spells as enemies.
Yeah, like a mage that's like, I don't know, somehow tapped into like the very elemental nature of the weave and just pulled out these living spells.
That's so cool. What else you could? So the Warforged. Obviously, everyone wants to use the Warforged. I have an idea for using one that I'm not going to tell you about because I want to use it. But you play my games.
Yes, I do.
But you can definitely. I mean, it's up to you whether you want Warforged to have the lore that they come from Aberon. And if you're not worried, if you're not like me and you don't need to make sure that everything lines up in your own universe, and you're not worried about how Aberon doesn't fit into Spelljammer and how could a Warforged have got here, you can use their lore that they came from another world and they came from Aberon. Or you can give them their own lore. Maybe they're constructs who, kind of like computer systems in our world, learnt and gained sentience over time.
Yeah, I mean, there's some precedent because if you look at all of the Spelljammer tangent, again, Crystal Spheres, you get in the same set of elves and dwarves and humans with minor differences. So what's to say that Warforged weren't somehow created in Faerun as well?
Exactly. So Warforged, I don't see any reason why they couldn't appear in any campaign. To be fair, same with Changelings. Changelings, I think, they're a bit of a Marmite. They're a love-hate because it's like, you can just change and be whatever you want. But the idea of being a Changeling rogue in Aberon is like the best thing in the world to me. So I wouldn't be, as long as I can explain why Changelings exist in my game, then I'm happy. If you'd have come to me and said, I want to play a Changeling in Tomb of Annihilation, I'd have been like, well, let me think about it for a couple of weeks while I work out where Changelings exist in my world, my version of Faerun, and then we'll go from there. So there are ways around that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
What else? I mean, there's tons of stat blocks in the back of here that you can just use and reskin. But the other stuff is stuff like how do you implement the themes, dude. These themes are not exclusive to Aberon. The idea of war and this tension, if you love that about Aberon, you can start implementing that into a homebrew game. You can start implementing that into any setting as well.
Yeah, all you need is numerous large forces that have been in conflict at some point, and let's be honest, they may have made peace, but they're going to be at each other's throats because that's people. Yeah,
it happens. Time repeats itself. I've just seen a really cool picture of the Moonland, which is the mist looks like screaming faces. God, that's so evocative. There's lots of stuff in this campaign setting that you can take and use, and I feel like I've been an excited puppy and just sort of jumped from one topic to another this episode because time has flashed by in talking about it.
It certainly has.
Yeah, have you just looked at the time of the recording? Yeah. I think the best thing you can do, if you have been thinking, like I was for a long time, I was like, I kind of get the idea of Aberon, but I don't really get it, and I'm running other things, I don't have the time to read it. Just give it a cursory glance. Just start reading, and you won't put it down. And once it's in your brain, you can start mingling those ideas together and working out a way to implement it into your own campaign. Obviously, it's going to be a bit weird trying to tell you how to put it in your own campaign, because I don't know what campaign you're running, but there are themes here, there are creatures and characters here, there are stat blocks here that you can take and use. Maybe your characters come across a broken and almost rusted and dead Warforged who they manage to corral back to life, who is lost and has somehow been transported to this world and needs help getting home, needs to find a powerful mage. Maybe you come across, a mage who, like Mordenkainen, has worked out how to travel from plane to plane and tells the adventurers of this strange world where magic is used by everyone, and it's like mind breaking to them. Maybe you don't want to set up the idea that there are different worlds out there, and you just want to start putting Changelings and Kalistar into your homebrew setting. Do it. Their lore is here. Take it, strip it apart, and pop it into your homebrew world.
I mean, I'll say, looking into this, I kind of realised, because I've started, doing my own homebrew things, and a couple of weeks ago I wrote the Creation Myth, just randomly came up with it one night, and at this point I hadn't looked at the Aberon book for at least a year. And then looking into it again, I'm like, my creation story is awfully similar to that one.
It was in the back of your subconscious.
Yeah.
Something in your brain went, dragons are cool. What if there were 3 dragons that made the world?
Essentially, yeah. And so you will, even if you only glance at it and then forget about it, the ideas will be there.
Absolutely. It's, as ever, anything, as with anything, it is inspiration. But, yeah. Go and read it. We should talk about your homebrew world sometime and about how you go through that process of creating stuff. I think that would be a good table fables.
I'll need to get a bit further along in that case.
I knew you were going to say that. I will point out as well that there is an adventure in the back of Rising from the Last War, definitely worth a look. And there's tons of Aberon stuff on DM's Guild now with adventures and stuff. So if you've been inspired to learn more, or if this rambling of random ideas has made you go, yeah, I want to play in that world, go and check those out. For 100%, my plan, instead of running an Aberon campaign, what I want to do as part of a Spelljammer campaign, which will happen one day, James, it will.
One day.
I will force you to play it. You will visit Aberon and have to, learn while you're there.
Ben, why would I want to go to Aberon? I'm on a Spelljammer,
See, this is the thing.
Once you've Spelljammed, you've peaked.
This is the thing. Spelljammer for me isn't about visiting different worlds. It's about traveling between them.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'd get you to Eberron. I'd be like, wow, guys, look at this amazing place. You can stop down, refresh your air, and get some supplies, have a look around. And you're like, no, we're not even going to get off the ship. We're just going to turn around and go back now. We want to fight more of those space sharks.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. We'll do an episode on Spelljammer, and hopefully I'll be able to form sentences better and get my ideas out in a more succinct manner.
I think maybe we should plan that one a bit more in advance.
Yeah. I was just so excited to actually talk about this setting and just sort of throw out word vomit.
Not gonna lie, I'm there literally half teaching a lesson, half got the Aberon book open, glancing over at it.
We won't tell your employee that. James, thank you for sharing your views and opinions on this weird, wonderful, amazing setting. And hey, thank you for one day playing in my Aberon campaign, because it will happen.
I mean, I'm playing all your games, so what's one more?
Yeah, exactly. I haven't got the time now, but one day I will have. And thank you for giving me this book, because I don't think I actually made that clear, but I have this book because of you. So
you're welcome.
Thank you. And it's the wonderful limited edition cover as well.
Yes, it is beautiful.
It is beautiful. James, this is the point where I usually say, hey, if you've got anything to plug on the internet, plug it. But do you have anything to plug?
I have absolutely nothing.
Well, then...
my job takes up my life.
Well, that was an easy segment, so thank you for shamelessly plugging yourself there. As ever, if you want to get involved with this podcast, if you want to shout at me and tell me that I got it all wrong and actually this and this about Aberon and not that and that, which I said, then you can find me on Twitter at WeSpeakCommon, at BenJeffNorris. Email is WeSpeakCommon@hotmail.com, and the website is WeSpeakCommon.com, which will take you a link to all of the things, all of the places you can listen to the show, all of the places you can interact, the Patreon, and of course the wonderful partners and sponsors of the show too. If you really want to have direct access to shout at me and tell me that I got all of this lore wrong, then the Discord is the place to go. So go and check out the Patreon.
And you can even shout at me there as well.
That's true. If the Discord members are listening to this and they're going, wow, this isn't quite the episode I was expecting, when I said I wanted to know more about Aberon, I apologise, I was too excited. Dude, thank you for sitting down with me.
Anytime. Recorded or not.
Yeah, well, yeah, true. Hopefully recorded, because then that saves me some hours, but...
Yeah.
You have a wonderful rest of your day, dude.
Oh, you too. See ya.
Bye. Thanks for listening today. If you like the show, do us a favour, leave us a like and review on your platform of choice, and share us with your friends. Send us to your fellow DMs and players so that we can build our community even more. It really helps to get us out in front of more eyes. If you want to support the show, you can by joining our Patreon. Links can be found in the show description and the episode descriptions on all platforms. The music in the podcast is Street Dancing by Timecrawler82. It's licensed under a Creative Commons license by NC. You can find it on the Free Music Archive.